I'm back. I'm back with Marabella. Hi, Marabella.
Hi, Skye. Hello.
Thanks for coming back. Marabella and I were live earlier during the week. We did a cacao full moon ceremony, but we decided to come back and talk because we both realized we use the same technique to manifest. We both call it make believe. We got on the subject of saying, like, when we were kids, we used to make believe, with dancing and like princess stories and play in gardens. And I found out when I started healing that I still had that ability, and I feel I tapped into that to manifest the life I have now. So we're going to talk on that. So welcome, Marabella, again.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to talk about this topic with you to converse about it because we both do this, but we didn't realize that we did it. Like we knew it, but we didn't talk about it before. So,
Well,
so
yeah, because
interesting.
it is, I guess it's kind of one of those things where I mentioned in the last talk that I realized I could do with this still when I, was getting well away from my pain and I was having psychiatric issues and I was spending a lot of time alone in a hospital, like in psych units, but then also when I got home. And instead of being so focused on like, got to get to a doctor, got to fix the pain, I had this like mind which really couldn't really converse too much with people or televisions. And I realized that make believe aspect was still there, as in like I could still tap into it. And what I like about it, I'm not sure what it's like for other people when they manifest, but when I tap into this make believe, which is like very similar to like the play and the imagination that I had as a kid, it brings me so much joy.
Yeah.
Like it's not something that is like tedious that I have to work at. It literally feels like one of the most joyous experiences as I do
Oh,
it. So,
yes. Yeah, so you're like filling your body with joy. You are really feeling the emotions of it. I think that's key is to really feel it because I think we said before in the last our last to get time we got together, we were talking about how when children they play make believe, they believe it. Like they become it. Like they are whatever. If they're a doctor, then they really are a doctor. They embody it. So it's like you have to feel the feelings as well and imagine with your whole all your senses as much as you can. If you can see it, sense it, taste it, know it, all
yeah.
the things. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like that. And I think when I realized I'd been through so much, I really had no shame. Like you
Oh,
get to this point where like I would be down in the garden because I could move my limbs again and I'd be dancing and imagining I'm in front of people and moving and feeling emotions I, being very heavily medicated, could not feel before. And then I started to notice my life shift the more I sat in the space of joy, happiness, and thinking and imagining what I wanted. Now, it didn't exactly manifest, especially straight away, exactly. And I guess manifestation never manifests exactly like you think. But all of these things started, like things associated with the emotions started to come into my life. So, goodness, good people, fun times, times with movement started to like find themselves into my life. And I never spoke about this because I just never thought anybody did it.
yeah. It's just giving me goosebumps. It's so good. Yeah.
Oh, good.
I just love it. Yeah, because when we think about manifestation, we think we need to say several affirmations, or we need to listen to a certain meditation, or it's all in the like doing. It feels kind of rigid, and in the imagining and the becoming, it just flows, and it's incredible. It is amazing. And I've been doing this since I was a little girl. I used to be so painfully shy, but I really wanted to be extroverted. I wanted to be all the things, like, bubbly and friendly, and so I would just imagine that I'd have like a crown on my head. I almost wore a tiara, like
Yeah.
for like inner child, and just came as my inner child. But just pretended I had like this crown on my head, and how would I act, how would I be? And wild how just feeling that, and then you feel free because you don't have to, you pretend it, you walk into it, but you don't have to like say something 6 times in order to make it manifest. You just sort of become it. And
100%.
mm-hmm. And it can just like play out in your head as you're resting. You can be thinking about kind of like your dream life, or the vacation that you want to go on, imagining when you're driving your car that you are like, this is your dream car, and it feels so
Yes.
good.
Yeah, so I noticed, like, so mine started very similar because I obviously didn't connect with it. You've still connected with it from when you were a child. And a couple of things. One of them is like people, I'm very either drawn to something or I'm not. And you can call it an ADHD trait, but I call it a truth trait. As in, like, I have to sit in my truth, otherwise, it gets pushed to the side. Like, whatever it is in my life, I can't force myself through. And a lot of people have said, do Joe Dispenza. And I keep trying and I keep feeling negativity when I do it. And a lot of the reason is because when you read his books, you sit in a space, first off, of where a person came from. And I won't sit in a space of negativity. I just can't bring myself into it. Another is being told what to do, because the way I believe each person's mind flows is very gifted and very special and very much their own. So I, like the ADHD student, can't sit there and repeat something 6 times. To me, that's not sitting in my truth. What sits in my truth is like floaty, flying. I love this song. I'm going to move my body. And when I start moving my body, I imagine like I'm dancing on an island. And look, I danced on the island like when I was in Indonesia, in Bali, and then it starts this skill or this make believe takes me to, like, when I'm down in the ocean, sometimes I actually think I'm in Hawaii. I went to Hawaii. Like, the
Oh
water's
yeah.
so crystal clear. But this is a very natural aspect which comes as part of my soul. You can't distinguish me without my make believe. So and it's one of those things where I think a lot of us are scared to tap into it, because it's like we're not kids anymore. Act like a grown up. Don't be silly. And it's like, fair enough. There's times when I'm out in public where I'm not going to be flinging around with a tiara on, but like when you're at
Right.
home, I'll wear a dress just so I feel flirty and flowy and girly and little. And I also notice the times when I've done this the most, I look the youngest. And I wonder how much
Hmm.
we're able to tap back in to baby Skye, little Skye.
Yes. Um, I mentioned my friend Callista. She does a class called Unicorn Healing.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I dressed up for the online class. I put like sparkles on my face, and I was so happy and into it. I love unicorns, and I think that's part of my inner
Oh,
child. And I was so happy and just floating on cloud nine. And my husband said, "Let's go out to dinner." And somebody thought that I was his daughter, my husband's daughter.
isn't that incredible?
Because I was just so happy that you just look younger when you're happy.
You do, but also, so I mentioned that when I started to tap into this, I'd always been kind of like this. Like, I loved especially children. Everyone knows I'm close to my nieces, but I tap into that space very, very, very well. And as I started to do this, I would always love to do dress up, right? But it's like dress up with my nieces. And
Hmm.
if you look at photos, considering I only a few months prior of getting out of a psychiatric unit, this is when I lost my memory, had I been extremely underweight and very sick, the youngest time in my life was when I spent the most time, I guess, dissociated in a state, not always dissociated in a bad way, but in a space of remembering who I am. Each time I've had like what I call a rebirth into um, health, I have spent a lot of time in this make believe space. And I've noticed recently, and I'm glad we talk about it, is the more busy and the more my mind heals and I can read more and I can follow what other people say more, the less I do it. And in actual fact, the times that I've successfully got myself well, successfully looked better, looked healthier, I had spent a lot of time in that make believe space.
Wow, that is so
But like
fun.
you is where, like, you're saying people are seeing you as younger. And just Jen said here, I love that you open up this conversation because I bet a lot of content creators and people who have manifested things into their life. Also, she believes a lot of content creators have manifested things into their life. Also, if we trace back, they did a lot of make believe as a child and brought that into their adulthood. I had two imaginary friends, Chintzy and Bob Roberts. My mum still laughs about it. I also used to teach a class to imaginary students. I also recently imagined my book complete, and now it's complete. Now it is that I love using it to help with stress. So thanks to you both for the reminder. I love that.
Oh,
See
I
how unique
love
it
that
is.
so
So
much.
do
Gosh, that was
I.
so nice of her to write in. I love that. Yeah,
Amazing.
amazing. I
Because
had invisible friends as well. I
oh
had two invisible
wow.
friends. Yeah.
So Edgar Casey, Edgar Casey, the famous healing clairvoyant who went into the Akashic records and could find people's issues from the past and their health, and he had like imaginary friends like so intense that he was never present, and yet he went on to change the world in that realm. Like the sleeping prophet they call him because he'd go out and he'd. Yeah, do you know Edgar Casey?
Yes, I have heard of him. And I didn't know that he had invisible friends, but I
Yeah.
he was the sleeping prophet, and he did so much good in the world, so much great work. And it makes you wonder how many people, like, I know that a lot of people, they go into a zone and that's where they get their downloads for a lot of people. I mean, probably anything, musicians, uh,
True.
people that are learning their lines and acting, you just kind of go into this other space and then the downloads come. And so maybe for us, we go into like sort of a same thing, a space of pretend. And that's when we get our ideas and inspirations.
True, but is it pretend? This is what I'm thinking is with
Yeah,
people
right.
like because consciousness, this dense reality we think it's everything. But the reality is it's not even a drop in the ocean when it comes to consciousness, spirit levels, all of like when you work in the spiritual realm, it's
Yes.
so like small, and we're forgetting this ability each of us has. And I believe it's because it's unique. Like think about Edgar Casey, think about
Mm.
yours, think about Jen, think about mine. No, you can't write a book on what to do because each person has this level of consciousness. And I know Edgar Casey, there was fairies and all sorts of things, and that's just
Yes,
different levels of realities, right?
right. Yes. Yeah, I know when I go hiking in the woods, I see fairies. Like, I really see the energies of the fairies. And I remember the first time as a child that I saw fairies. We were in Wyoming on a ranch on a vacation, and I was left alone, and it was raining. And I went outside, and the rain had stopped, and I could see fairies dancing in the grass, and it was so amazing. And I was like, I didn't know they were fairies. I was like, what is happening? Everything was lit up and glowing, and it was magical.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I love that so much. And I think when I went bushwalking as a child, um, I would always see fairies. Like I'd be so drawn to nature that there'd be
Hmm.
like, it's like how I think about it is it ties back into when I had PTSD, and there's this overlay of different realities, and is make believe different. And I just brought up what make believe consciousness is. And it's saying here make believe consciousness refers to a state of dreaming where the brain constructs a vivid, often surreal reality. When a person is dreaming, their brain is typically in REM, which I mean, I don't think people, I have to do some more research into this
Hmm.
because it's saying
Yeah.
how there's different brain waves, and it's talking about the theta brain waves. And I wonder if children, I'm not getting much information on it here,
Hmm.
are tapping deeply into theta when they are daydreaming. Is that where we go? I'm not, because science talks a lot about this in the realm of physical, but we're saying like it's, is it spiritual? Because I think life is spiritual. And what role does it play?
Right. Like, we are spiritual beings. I feel like we are in these bodies, so we're spirits in bodies. And so our bodies kind of hold us and ground us and limit us, but when we sleep it feels like maybe we're more free. And when we meditate, we definitely can go to a different dimension, I feel like. So
True.
here we are, spiritual beings on earth with this gravity in this body. And different things set us free, like you mentioned, dancing, anything that we do that brings us such joy, dream time, feeling so happy and so full of joy really can lift the spirit, almost shine the spirit out through the body. So I feel like we are, to your point, pretend is real.
That's right. Well, children think that, and a
Hmm.
huge part I talk about also is when I had my like dissociation or my psychiatric issues. You cannot tell me that wasn't dark night of the soul, and it wasn't like this place where my soul had to break to come through as it truly needed. And it reminds me of rappers. So people like Eminem, for example, who all of a sudden have this gift of rhyming all of these words. Now, when you lose your mind or you have a psychiatric problem, is instead of having, like when we're in the world of reality, words flow in a normal sentence. So instead of being like Justin Bieber's song, I got my peaches out in Georgia. Okay, so we buy there's peaches. He gets his peaches from Georgia. So when you have a dissociated or your mind is fractured, is instead of pulling that he actually went and got the peaches as fruit from Georgia, it also pulls all other connotations and concepts of words all at once. So like I thought the saying was he took his behind out in Georgia because this came out when I like as in like I got my peaches out in Georgia. I thought he showed his butt to people in Georgia. And the thing is, that's just what came to my mind. But people like
Yeah.
Eminem have like a psychiatric issue. Next minute, they're rapping and they're able to associate words that when you've been conditioned in society, you are very streamlined, like A to B, A to B,
Yeah.
A to B. When you have this like spiritual awakening or you have this dissociation, it's like your mind pulls in everything. It's like it's lost grip with like the cues which make everything linear. And so someone might say one word, and for most people they get what the person's saying. But when you're going through this, is it's literally like an ocean, and it's why I think people have a hard time being in reality or communicating with other people, because when somebody says a whole sentence, my concept of it and construct is really different. And I think that plays back into that ability to manifest make believe, because most people who are at the top, maybe they're not ecstatically happy, but you will find they've usually gone through something absolutely horrific, traumatic. They've kind of split and come back, out the other side. I
Yes.
think that plays into the make believe, right?
Right, right. And I think so too, because I know that I suffered a little bit of trauma growing up as a child, and I feel like that the make believe was a safe place for me, like a place where I would go to make the my reality kind of what I wanted it to be, or I would allow the of other alternative answers to come rather than just staying in the trauma, what happened because of my trauma. If that makes sense. Did that come out
No, it
right?
does. And I think more people should feel safe doing this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to hurt anyone, even, who's getting burnt out and stressed and can feel their health suffering, to
Right.
take time for yourself to spend. I find nature is the best way to amplify
Me
raw foods
too.
and nature. But if you're not at raw food level yet, is eat good food that you can and get your butt in nature. I spent, like, I always go back to when I've gone
Yes.
through things psychiatrically, I will literally, because I'm so ungrounded, I will literally spend as much time as I can outside because it's the only thing that makes sense. As in,
Mm-hmm.
like, everything is just so chaotic. And I know there's different physical reasons as well for that when you're overstimulated, and these lights, they're not good for you. But it's amazing what I believe that this comes from, like the purest form of source. Like you combine nature, you combine sunlight, you combine raw food, and I felt it really amplified as I needed to get well.
Yes, absolutely. Nature, even just a little tiny walk, will do your soul wonders. And when you can tune into nature, so kind of make sure to open up your senses, look around, tune in with your heart. Um, and sometimes you can imagine sending love out to nature and it comes back in a hundredfold, like
It
so
does.
incredible. Yeah, there's nothing like it. And um, the raw foods as well, just feeling clean, even Sky, even when I make my juice and I'm cleaning the vegetables, I'm holding them, I'm cutting them, I'm putting them in the juicer. I feel so good just making juice. It's
Yeah,
so incredible. Like you can feel the live enzymes, you know that it's going to be so good for your body. You're going to have a lift. So amazing. And so, green juice, raw food, outside time, and it gets the ideas flowing too.
it
You can
does.
let your imagination go. You know, if you're troubled and you go outside in nature and you're going for a walk, you're getting that endorphin boost too. You're getting the sunshine. Even on a cloudy day, it's great. You don't have to be in the sunshine, but it really helps to get your body going, and you can breathe the fresh air and allow the beauty to come. You can allow your imagination to start to work. You can just ask a question, like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And then when you walk, the answers will come. Or
Mm.
even you don't necessarily have to walk. You can just sit on the earth and earth. Do you know the benefits of earthing too? Just like walking barefoot on the grass. So good for your body.
100%. Well, so that is a direct current which matches the body, those electrons. And we come inside, and this is all an alternate current. And all the cells of our body, all the little gateways on the cells of our bodies, start letting in the wrong electrons and the wrong minerals, and like things like calcium gates start opening on cells and start letting in the wrong things. And the blood in the human body starts to congeal. And so you're in like a real dense, you're heading towards a pain state. All you have to do is stand on the ground for even less than a second, and the current in your body resets. The longer you're on the ground, of course, it's not necessarily that that's fixing it. It means that you're not on a alternate current. So as soon as you come inside, you're not getting that electrons, but the actual exchange is like instantaneous. Organs start to reset, the blood starts to flow, but it'll continue to do that while you're outside. But it's not necessarily that more time is better. It's that once you get off the
Mhm.
ground, you're blocked again, and a lot of people suffer from many things. I find mentally it's terrible. The best I feel is like right now, if you throw me with like makeup and hair done and ungrounded into the ocean, I will come back a completely different person. Like
Yeah.
bathing in the ocean, having the feet
Um,
on the ground, I swear that's like my kingdom of goodness. Oh, I
yes.
like this too. I love dress ups because they're talking about make believe, right? And there's different
Right.
facets of each person. And I do love, as a girl, doing my hair, putting a dress on, having fun, but I also
Yes.
love being grounded and feeling the universe and
Yes.
intertwining those two. But yes,
Right.
grounding has just so many benefits. It's also like that monkey mind just stops. You get outside, feet on the ground, that chatter just stops. And it's like, ah,
Yes. Yes. Fresh with possibilities. I just love that.
100%.
So, do
100%.
you do anything special to tap into your imagination? Like, do you meditate or do you just allow it to come, or how does it work for you usually?
Okay, so I just want to preface that when I finally healed myself, I had been through things which are unimaginable, which I have a spiritual healer, Hannah, that I work with, but there's actually sometimes no human words for what happened. But it's like this spiritual side, which really makes me appreciate life, like seeing things and experiencing the world fractured and dissociated is something. There's no movie, there's nothing. Like everything that happened before that was in a very dense reality. So losing my stomach, having all these surgeries, being in chronic pain, people hear that and they're like, that must have been so horrific. And I'm like, it is horrific, but you're still you. When you lose you, you didn't even know it was possible to lose your soul, lose your memories, lose, you know that they're out there, but you can't access them. You can't converse with people. People talk to you and you can't. It's losing yourself is, there's actually, it's very hard to explain to people because there's no, we live in a very dense reality, and even the most traumatizing things that happened in a reality which is familiar to me, even though you have to go up through ups and downs and your organs removed and massive surgeries, is it's still in a reality that is what most people know as normal. When you, as I said, you dissociate. But what I want to get to is, I feel like this went on quite intense 4 years, and it's took a 7 year cycle for it to pass through. It's only now that I feel like I am what you would call completely able to be present, not just some form of dissociation and memory loss. But what I learned during that time was, because I healed myself in the grip of being dissociated and only using nature and raw foods. But it made me realize, because I couldn't read or write at that time, how we have all the knowledge in us. And all the skills that I applied and thought of were not something I learned in a book. They were all something like I'd fallen over as a kid, and it didn't hurt as much because there was a grass that I fell on, or watching my dad have juice and raw food for breakfast every day and him not having health problems. Nothing that taught me to heal myself came from a book. So coming out of that and healing myself and doing what I do now, I don't follow, unless I'm called to, anything that somebody else says. And by
Mm-hmm.
doing something like, and everyone to their own, this is my journey, is, if I don't feel like getting up um, and doing a meditation, or I went through a stage of journaling a lot, if I don't feel like journaling, I will not do it, because I end up ending in a place which is very conditioned. And I learnt very strongly that nothing conditioned fixed me. It's kind of like being an animal. Animals aren't conditioned. They're out in the wild. They need salt, they will source salt. They need a certain root or plant, they will source it to heal themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I kind of got to that state. So when you say, do I follow anything? I follow my intuition and I hold on to that baby like I thought the most successful people in this world were what you'd call the smartest, the people who had read the most books. I was always reading. Went to university. No, you can't get anywhere. You just get more confused. You're just going down all these rabbit holes. And this expert, and 20 years from now, oh, that was killing people, and that almost killed me. And then once I tapped into this make believe, this dream state, this
Mm-hmm.
imagination, this let educate, like not education but knowledge, that by the time I had to heal myself, I had it all from incidents, never nothing from a book. Maybe I was told, or there was an elderly person who said, oh, growing up we always use this for this, something like that in my reality, but nothing that was, as I'm saying. So that's why when people say, do you do these like routines,
Mm-hmm.
only if I'm called to. And if
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks from now I change my mind. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
like flowy like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I love that. That is such a good lesson for tuning into our own intuition. And we, like you said, we all have that.
We do.
And I I like to say, for us to find it, we go through our hearts, but it's different for every person. And that is really the connection to the universe or God, or however you
True.
would like to say that. But that is where, and I feel like that is kind of where, like, it's us remembering our intuition and tuning back
Yes.
in and connecting in. And we really can get sidetracked if we follow lots of different teachers, or this person over here says it this way and someone over here says no, that's wrong. But what do we feel? It's so
Yes.
good to go back to our intuition. We all have it. And being outside, doing all the healthful things, being outside, uh healthier food, raw food, um, drinking your water, getting your rest, all of that helps us to be able to hear our own intuition.
Well, you
So
become
good.
like a conduit. Is that what you call it? A conduit where
Yes.
you're literally like a radio receiver. So you're
Right.
clean, you're full of like photons, like vibrating raw foods, water, you're grounded. You're getting these messages which are like pure source or a higher level of source. All of my, so when I first started, like, I'd been physically sick for many years. And before I had that like dissociation, I was coming off a lot of heavy medication, pain medications and antidepressants. And you start to see reality again. And I don't think my mind was ready to process it. But what was happening was, and I remember back that as I was healing, I was doing a lot of, they wanted me to have a lot of protein shakes. But in the end, my protein shake was pretty much all frozen berries. So very much raw food.
Yeah.
And like, I think I ended up leaving sometimes the scoop out. It would be like a scoop of yogurt or a scoop of ice cream, but all day I was basically eating a massive amount of berries. And if you've eaten a lot of fruit, even if you are having dairy or something else, you will start to notice the universe talking. And I remember starting to want to be outdoors. So, like, even though I was really sick, I would lay outdoors till like 11 o'clock at night on my parents' balcony, or I'd walk down to I had to be around nature all the time. And I really believe if you need to heal, we heal on so many different levels, is get some raw food and get in nature. Or if you can't get to the raw food, get in nature and you'll be kind of like guided. I believe it brings you to who you're supposed to be. And we call it make believe. But what if it's like truth? Like, you know how in Australia, I don't know
Yes.
if you've heard of this, the Aboriginals talk about a dream time, like that we dreamed existence with a serpent. It's like their creation story. And it's
Hmm.
kind of like that. We've lost our dream state, right?
Right. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. So our make believe quite possibly is true. It is
Well, I think
reality.
it's like it is
Yeah.
the truth. But do you do anything to like daily rituals which help you? Like, because I've kind of gone, well, I've done this and done that, but it's always changing. What daily rituals do
Hmm.
you use?
Yeah, I mine's always changing too because I was working with cacao. I was working
Yep.
actually with mama cacao, and so I would have my cacao every day and just kind of be present with her, be present and just see her messages for me. And so there's that, and then I would do a walk. I usually typically try to walk 10,000 steps a day or more. So I'm
Yes.
out in nature. I've actually done the Joe Dispenza that you spoke of, the chakra
Yep.
meditation. I actually love that. And so I kind of do my own chakra meditation at times. I do yoga. I'm like you. Right now I'm flowy. I've gone through years where I've done a set thing every day, same thing every day. And now every day is a different day. Every day I do something
That's
different. So
right.
so I have
And it's
to,
like part of that make believe, right? Is kids hate routine. Like they
yes,
hate routine. They love to make believe, like,
right.
do a bit of this, do a bit of that. That looks fun. That looks exciting. And I feel like the more I sit in that space, and there was actually a study where they took a whole lot of people, I think in their late 70s and 80s, who had all sorts of diseases and were in an old people's home, a retirement home, and possibly a nursing home. And they put them on a bus and they drove them to this house. It was in London. And in this house, they dumped their bags out and they said, "We don't care how long it takes. You guys get your own bags into the house." And once they were in the house, all that played and all the appliances were all back from the 50s, from when they were
Oh,
in their 20s. So the radios, the televisions, the linen, what was coming out of the radio. I don't even know if there was television. They had to, and it was all about, I think the war was on, so it was all war information coming through. And these people lived there for 3 months. I think it was 3 months. And at the end of this time, most of their illness had gone. They were young and nimble again because you'd set up the environment and they started to think they were young. Like their cells started to act. So it's like the more I believe we stay in that make believe and that young and that the tiaras and the glitter and the dresses and Paris Hilton's an embodiment of it. I mean, she's galloping around like her unicorn gallop, right? Is do people stay younger, and it's the science is kind of directing that we do.
yes, 100%. I believe it. Yeah.
So
And
maybe we
so
need to make our place like we did when we were little girls, like bright pink with like streamers and like.
yes, and I love pink. I typically wear
Yeah.
pink every day, but that's my happy place. So, yeah, I agree. I think we decided that make believe is real.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Do you have any tips that you would give anybody who's wanting to like start doing their make believe?
Yeah, a lot of people they are stuck in, oh, but I'm this way and I can't do that because I'm a mom, or I'm a grandma, I can't do that. You can start by doing things like maybe remember one thing that you used to like to do when you were younger. Um, I sometimes will have my clients color, so coloring is so
Mm.
much fun, and it's kind of like a meditation as you color. So I use color for a lot of different ways, in therapeutic ways, but just picking out something that you love. You can find something on the internet and you can print it out and color. There's tons of coloring pages. I say start there. Taking little walks outside. And you mentioned music. Music's
Music's
huge.
huge. We both
So
said it. We both
yeah.
go music's huge. It is
Yeah.
like music is like the place where I can just my mind allows me. And I saw. Sorry to interrupt. When I
No,
was in the
you're good.
psych hospital, there was a big poster up that said, "Music is the only thing that lights up all areas of the brain at once."
Wow. That's
Isn't that
incredible.
amazing? Isn't that
So
amazing?
amazing. You can
Sorry, I
turn on,
interrupted you there.
oh no, you're good. No. I was just with the music, turn on some music that you love and dance.
I
Just get
say
up
that
and
too.
dance. Yeah.
I say that because I feel like you go into like it's like a trance state where I can be like little, I can be on a stage, I can be with friends. Like you can really, well, it's lighting up the whole brain. So we're able to like access and connect to higher realms like as we dance.
Yes, it's so great. It's so good for an endorphin lift, and whatever it is that you like to do, I say do it. Like do it. Like
I with
if
you.
if you like to ride bikes, go do it. If you whatever it takes, just do it.
I
And then
agree.
just ask, like say out loud, I'm ready for my creativity to come in. I'm ready for to start imagining, make believe, and kind of pay attention to your dreams too, because sometimes if you make a statement like, okay, I'm ready for my imagination to kick in, I'm ready to play pretend again, it'll come through your dreams. You'll start having like some really fun fantasial fantasial fantasy dreams.
And you can make up words too.
And you can make up your own words.
That's right.
Just like little kids do.
That's it. I think all of that, like, I think all of that is so real. Like, as in, it will, because this is why I never commit to things very long, is I have to live in my truth. I've realized that now, is my body will break me to get to truth. And so I'm better to sit in that state of put some music on and dance, put a fun dress on, make believe, make up words, pretend you're somewhere else, get outside in nature and talk to trees and see the fairies and the butterflies
Yes, yes,
and do
absolutely.
and do
And
all that.
don't second guess yourself. If you walk outside and you feel like I walk outside sometimes in the spring and I can feel the rainbow. Like I can't see a rainbow at that time, maybe, but I can
Like
feel that
that.
one is there. So don't second guess yourself. Just allow it. Just, yes, I'm feeling a rainbow right now,
I
and
like that's it,
accept
right?
it.
Because there's got to be a rainbow somewhere in some dimension, in some place that you're tapping into. And I loved, like,
Yes.
you can get out in nature if you need some physical things to start, is put your favorite songs on. I like to do songs like from when I remember being like happy and upbeat and flowy. And then you can get your coloring books and some glitter and start in the physical realm doing things that you
Hmm.
remember as a child you enjoyed, and you
Yeah.
can ignite and remember who you are. And like those people that were in that home who all their diseases started going when they were in the environment from their 20s,
Yes.
it's you will start remembering who you are. Because you love those stories where you said, when children think they're a nurse or a doctor, they embody it as a child. And you hear about those people who go, I remember I wanted to be a doctor from when I'm a child. they never let go of that dream. What did you dream of and make believe as a child? What space did you imagine you were going to grow up and, help people or dance or have a whole lot of
Yes.
friends? Like, were you someone who sat outside with your dolls and had tea parties? Are you someone who loves to socialize? Are you someone who was more quiet and spoke to fairies? Like, who were you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Getting back in touch with who you used to be, and you can even do some journaling of
Yes.
what your dreams were,
And
or just some
scrapbooking?
doodling, scrapbooking. Yeah. And
I
don't
love
judge.
that.
Whatever comes through, comes through. No one has
That's
to
what we
see it
didn't
but you.
do as a child, right? It's only once you start getting into primary school or the first years of school you start to judge others. When you're little, you just wake up, you put your clothes on, which you only don't like if they're itchy on your skin, you know, or you want pink on and you want like ribbons in your hair and you just want
Yes.
fun and you just want toys and you just want, but that all is like this embodiment of like make believe. We don't want
Mm-hmm.
toys because they do anything more than symbolize something, right? The
Right.
dolls aren't doing anything. The unicorns aren't doing anything. They're just able to symbolize the dream.
Yes. Yes. And you can even open up to your spirit team that are around you,
Yes.
and do some playful things, like, ask for them to show themselves, and they may drop feathers, or they may drop coins, or they may drop little candies. I don't know what you'll find, but just say, I'm open. That's all you have to do. I'm open. I'm ready. I'm ready
Yes.
for my imagination. I'm ready for the fun. I'm ready for the magic. I'm open to the magic.
And a really good time to do this is if you are going through a hard time. I used that technique when I was probably at my darkest hours, where I was speaking to like different dimensions in my head, being like, I can't do this anymore. This is getting really tough. I don't know what I'm doing. And something would fall off a wall. Like literally every time something
Oh,
was hitting a space where I didn't think I could cope anymore, because the world just seemed so much when I was trying to get better. And I was like, you could feel it come over me, and I'd be like, and everything would go like slow down, and all of a sudden like a book would fall on the floor or a door would slam, and I'd be like, okay, the universe has got my back, I'm okay. Like, and
oh,
I did
wow.
use that a lot in my like I would have to say my darkest times in like acute psychiatric units, where I just could not comprehend that I now was here. Like, I'm like, I've been through enough. What is this? And then I was
Yeah.
like, I can't do this. This is not right. And then something, and I'd go, okay, the universe is still here. Like, and it would be things where like it wasn't supposed to happen. It wouldn't be like a coincidence. It'd be like everything's silent, and then something would just tip over or pop off the floor, or a screw would come off, and it's like, I think when you're in that space, I think you are partly in a different reality, or able
Yeah.
to feel and sense things at just this like exponential level, and you look for that. And so I think everyone, you can do it. There is hope. And also then once you come through, I use this tool now as my make believe to make believe the life that I've always dreamed of.
Wow. I love your story. That is so special.
Oh,
And it
thank
makes me
you.
wonder if you weren't visited by fairies and they were just like, we're here.
I think
We're going to knock
I
this book off. We're here.
I believe if you're like, if you go into dark times, I believe, and you can't, for some reason, if you're in, like as I said, like in a situation like a unit where you're isolated for some reason, I believe the universe will talk to you in ways that you've got to be open to listen. You've got to believe. Like, I remember people used to say when I was really sick and in a lot of pain and in and out of surgeries, they're like, are you religious? What do you believe?
Yeah.
And I used to say, I believe. I just believe. I used to have like a little rock next to my bed that said, I believe. Like, I always believed that I had to go through this to help people. Like, I was accumulating all these skills. And yet, when I,
Yes.
of course, went through this dissociation time, nothing could prepare me for that experience. But now that's a whole, like, now I'm here talking to a beautiful soul like you.
Oh, you're a beautiful soul.
Ah,
I love talking
everyone's a
to you.
beautiful soul. Oh, oh.
Wow. This was so fun.
It was. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we go?
Um, just to have everyone just keep their hearts open and just believe, as
I
you
love
were
that.
saying.
I love that. Everyone just believe. All right, guys. Well, that was our make believe live. I love that so much. Get out
That was
there,
so fun.
color, go for walks, see the fairies,
Uh-huh.
feel the things you loved as a kid. Bring back that inner child.
Music.
Yes. All right. I'll see you later. Bye,
See you.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.